Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wonder if where you grow up and what your parents do actually affects how motivated you are in school? Well, pull up a chair because a huge study just dug into this question using data from millions of teenagers all over the world. We're talking about a massive research project, a meta-analysis of data from the Program for International Student Assessment, or PISA. Imagine looking at the motivation of over 3.5 million 15-year-olds from 92 countries. That is a lot of students helping us understand something really important: the link between socioeconomic status, or SES, and a kid's drive to do well in school. So, the big idea is that a student's background, their family CS, might play a role in how motivated they are to learn. But how much of a role? And does it matter if we're talking about their parents' jobs, their education, or what they have at home? That is what this study aimed to find out. Think of SES as a few different things. It can be about how many years of school a parent completed, what kind of job they have, or even how many books are in the house. All these things can give a picture of a family's economic and social standing. And achievement motivation. What is that? Well, it is not just about getting good grades. It is about things like believing you can succeed, finding a subject interesting, feeling like it is important for your future, or even how anxious you get about difficult tasks. PISA measured several of these, like self-efficacy, which is basically your belief in your ability to do something. The researchers took all this data and crunched it using a fancy method called individual participant data meta-analysis. Basically, they didn't just look at the final reports from each PISA study. They went back to the raw data for each student. This is like having super detailed ingredient lists instead of just the final recipe. It let them really dig deep. So, what did they find? Let's break down the main results. This is the headline. On average, there is a small but positive link. Students from families with higher CS, meaning those with more resources and background advantages, tend to have slightly higher achievement motivation. Think of it like a gentle nudge, not a giant shove. It means CS matters, but it is not the whole story. But here is where it gets more interesting, because this small association isn't the same for everyone. The researchers found that the connection between S and motivation changes depending on what aspect of SES you look at and what type of motivation you are measuring. Turns out, the things in your home that directly relate to learning, like the number of books or educational resources, had a stronger link to motivation than things like a parent's job status. This makes sense, right? If you have easy access to books and learning materials, it might more directly fuel your interest and drive to learn than knowing your parent has a certain job title. Self-efficacy, that belief in your own ability, was particularly linked to SES. Students from higher SES backgrounds tended to have higher self-efficacy, suggesting that their upbringings might consistently provide them with experiences that build confidence. They also looked at how this relationship changed over time. Interestingly, the link between SEs and motivation actually grew a bit stronger over the years leading up to 2018. This might be because families with higher CS have been investing more and more in their children's educational development, widening the gap. But then, something surprising happened after the COVID-19 pandemic hit. The association decreased. The researchers think this might be because the pandemic threw a wrench in everyone's academic lives. School closures and remote learning created similar challenges for most students, regardless of their CS. Plus, social comparisons, which really influence things like self-concept, were harder to make when everyone was learning from home. One of the most crucial parts of this study is what happens when you account for academic achievement itself. If students from higher SES backgrounds do better in school, does that explain all of their higher motivation? The answer is no. Even when students have similar academic achievement, there is still a bit of a link between their SES and their motivation. This means CS influences motivation in ways that go beyond just grades. It suggests there are other pathways, like the encouragement, role models, and belief systems that families provide that shape a student's drive. So, what does this all mean for us? First, it reinforces that our environment and upbringing do shape us even in our internal drives like motivation. But it is not deterministic. The association is small, meaning individual effort, personality, and other factors play huge roles. Second, it highlights that CAC isn't just one thing. The resources directly available for learning at home seem to be more influential on motivation than just a parent's job title. This is a key takeaway for parents and educators. Directly supporting a stimulating learning environment at home can make a real difference. The study also offers some practical implications for education policy. Since motivation is dynamic and can be influenced by interventions focusing on motivational aspects, especially those less tied to family CS like utility value, could be a powerful way to help bridge achievement gaps, particularly for students from lower CS backgrounds. However, it is important to remember the limitations. This study looked at 15-year-olds. so developmental changes in motivation across different ages aren't captured. Also, while the PISA data is vast, it doesn't account for every country or every single aspect of an individual's life. Wealth and income, for example, weren't directly measured, and they couldn't tell us about the exact mechanisms how these SS differences translate into motivational differences. Future research could dive deeper into these micro-level processes, looking at specific parent-child interactions or classroom dynamics. Scroll first, although this study captured multiple dimensions of family SES. The analyzed IPD from PISA did not include a direct measure of household income or wealth. See also Davis, Keen et al. 2021. First, overall, this is a super important piece of research. It shows us that while family CS is linked to student motivation, it's a complex relationship. It's not about blaming or excusing, but about understanding the subtle ways our backgrounds can influence our drive and how we can work towards creating more equitable opportunities for all students to feel motivated and believe in their ability to succeed. What are your thoughts on these findings? Do you think your own background influenced your motivation in school? Let me know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this deep dive into psychology, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to RUBIN'S Mind Lab for more, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next exploration into the fascinating world of the human mind. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.